So there's always, no matter what we talk about in the modern world today, we can talk about Eisenhower. But today, unfortunately, we have to take it serious. And it should, whenever you start talking about these things, make you uncomfortable. Because the comprehension of something this size is something no one in this room can even understand. But in order to do that, we have to talk about President Eisenhower by himself. My great-grandfather was born, he was born in Texas. I know there's a couple Texas people here, and so I try not to skip over Texas. But my great-grandfather was from a small town in Kansas called Abilene. My mother still lives there today. Our roots go back about 160 years or so before the Civil War. There's been an Eisenhower that's fought in every single war in the history of this country up until Iraqi freedom, just so you guys know. But we come from humble roots. My great-grandfather didn't have shoes and ran around. We would call that dirt poor today, or the wrong side of the tracks 50 years ago. He wasn't supposed to be in the military. His mother hated violence. He wasn't supposed to be in the Army. He was supposed to go to Annapolis. He wasn't supposed to stay as a career officer in the United States military, but he did. And he was never supposed to be the Supreme Allied Commander, but he was. Through common sense, dedication to his craft, my great-grandfather became the Supreme Allied Commander. In 1939, when the war started, he was a colonel. And by the time in 1944, June 6, 1944, two things happened. One, he was leading international forces for the first time in the history of the world in a size that we can't even know, across the English Channel to defeat the Nazi Germans. This crusade was something that taught everyone in the world. We had an idea that there was something going on, but this confirmed it. The second thing, I said two, it's important to the story. The second thing is my grandfather John graduated from a university called West Point, June 6, 1944, in the 3-year commissioning program that they had at the time, and then became the aide-de-camp to Ike. Why is that important? Because as Ike continued, the Allied forces continued to go through France, go into Germany, and start seeing the horrific concentration camps, the death camps, the work camps, depending on where you were. It was my grandfather's job to make sure that everything was documented. So, famous saying, take pictures because one day they will say this never happened. What do they say today? It's important for us. We cannot understand what happened during World War II and before. We don't truly understand the eradication of populations, not just the Jewish population. There was others as well. If you stop and think for 2 seconds, the March of the Living gives people an opportunity to try to understand it. And when I went to Auschwitz for the first time, I was okay with the gas chambers. Like, I understood it. I read about it. I get it, right? Okay, this is terrible. I get it. And I was okay with the gold. And I was okay with the luggage. When I turned the corner and I saw those children's shoes, I wept like no grown man should. And it's those stories that we have to understand. What we are embracing and what we live today is something that as global citizens, which we all are, have a responsibility to make sure that we are talking about, that we are working through, and we are bearing witness. And that's why the Eisenhower family is proud to support this organization. Thank you very much.
You're amazing.